This here is the new Xiaomi Mijia action cam. So it's 4K 30 frames per second is the maximum setting that this can shoot at. So it's selling for around about 100 US, which is quite cheap considering the specs of this. It does have a 2.4 inch touchscreen. Comes in this tiny little box. And the reason it's so small is because it does not include a protective case. There are third-party ones available, but I don't even think there's an official case for it yet that is out. So in the box, these are the only accessories you get: a micro USB 2 cable for charging and data, and then the battery, which is 1450 milliamp hours, which is good for up to 2 hours of 4K recording. So on the bottom of the Mijia 4K Mini, you'll find a typical thread there, so you can mount this onto a tripod or your action cam accessories. One little flap here that when opened up, of course, you insert the battery there. Now, charging time of that battery is around about 1 hour and 40 minutes, and here you can see a tiny little slot there for micro SD cards. So in the front, a status LED, and then of course the lens. Now this lens here has a field of view of 145 degrees. It's a 12 megapixel sensor, which is a Sony IMX317. Now it does not come with a lens cap in the box, but you can get third-party ones available now online from somewhere like AliExpress. Now the aperture of the lens is f2.8. which, as you'll see later on, isn't great for low light. So low light performance is not the strength of this particular camera here. Now also note that because of that wide-angled lens, you're going to have a fisheye effect. On the top, there's the button for starting and stopping the recording, of course, speaker, microphone, another microphone on the left, and then this tiny little flap here which hides the micro USB 2 port. So there is no video out on this. So all of the controls, apart from of course on and off, is handled via this touch screen. So it has a 960 by 480 resolution, and yes, there is an English option, as you can see. So overall, the build quality is very decent. We do have a metal frame all around the outside. It's plastic on the front, and the touchscreen is not fully laminated either. But overall, I feel for the price of around 100 US, you're getting a decent build. It's just a shame that it's not waterproof, and they don't include a case or at least a lens protector either. So using it's quite easy. Swiping to the right will bring up all your different modes you've got. So time-lapse video, slow motion goes up to 200 frames per second. We do have, of course, the settings menu. So you can tweak the exposure, ISO, which goes right up to 6400. No sharpness or contrast controls here, which is a little bit unfortunate. White balance too, you can manually set that, which is handy. If it gets it wrong and you want to make sure you've got that set to what it is, for example, sunny outside, you keep it on sunny. Metering mode. Now, one thing to point out too, that the electronic image stabilization using the gyro, that only works in 1080p. So it does not work in 720p. It does not work either in 4K, unfortunately. So you've got no stabilization whatsoever, so the footage is going to look a little bit shaky there. Lens distortion, you can also disable that in 1080p. Again, in 4K, you cannot control that lens distortion there, so you're going to have that fisheye effect. And then swiping to the left brings up the gallery there, so you can quickly go through things and check out previews. You can also preview them on the application. Now the app for it is the Mi Home app. So you connect up, you have to find the Mijia Mini 4K action cam, and you've got all the settings that the camera has on here, so you can remotely start recording, take photos, control your screen resolution, view your photos, which is a little bit slow because it actually downloads the video and photos first. So I wouldn't really recommend doing that. Probably best just to view it directly on the camera or your PC. There's other settings in here too that you can control all of the camera settings. And it's probably actually easier to tweak things using this application than doing it on that tiny little touch screen. Now there's a little bit of delay in what the video is showing on the application here compared to what you see on the camera. The delays are around approximately 1 second or so, which is to be expected because it's being transmitted by wireless directly and not via a cable. So now I have the camera mounted to the handlebars of my electric scooter here, shooting on 4K, 30 frames per second. Now there's no electronic image stabilization. This time around I've enabled 1080p 30 frames per second with the electronic image stabilization on. And this is 4K handheld now. So I did a little pan around, see how well it handles with that dynamic range, those clouds there, and the shadows. So the sun's slowly going down. And now mounted to a selfie stick. You can see the microphone's sensitive enough that it can pick up my voice just fine from this distance here. And it does a reasonably good job. I've noticed that it tends to sometimes underexpose my face, but of course the conditions here are quite difficult with the sun starting to set now. So not easy. So as you can see, 1080p, of course we don't have that resolution. The detail's gone, a lot of it, but it looks a lot more stable because of the electronic image stabilization that this has. And this is now low light, so you can see the quality is starting to get a little bit grainy now. Not as good. And that's due to the fact that it's got that f2.8 aperture, so not very good low light performance at all from this camera. So overall, I feel for the 100 US this is selling for, and even sometimes as low as 90 US, it's a great little action cam. It's a shame it does not come with a waterproof case, like a lot of other models do, but you can now source them, at least third-party ones, online to get around that problem there. And the same goes for a little protective case over the lens, which it doesn't also include too. So the performance of the videos you're seeing from that there's no stabilization in 4K, so it's quite shaky. Now that's a problem with a lot of other action cameras too there. And I've noticed that in low light, yes, it's very grainy, so low light performance is really quite crappy on this particular model here. The other thing too to note that if you have a look at some of the footage really closely, you will see there is some grain and some pixelization there, just some compression artifacts that do show up a little bit in the video when it's moving around quite fast there. But overall, I feel it's a good little package here, and really, for the price, it's not hard to recommend this if you just need a basic kind of action cam and you don't want to spend a huge amount of money getting one of those GoPro Hero 5s or the Session ones, which of course are a lot more expensive than this. Thanks for watching this review here. Hope to see you back in the channel with more up and coming reviews. Bye for now.